First record at this year's Atlanta 500 was shattered before the green flag fell as a spectacular crowd of 83,000 race fans poured into the Atlanta International Raceway for the 9th annual 500 miler. They came to see the fastest late model stocks in the world. Davy Pearson in a Ford starting front row outside. Charlie Glotzbach's Dodge number 1 Charger starting in the 3rd position. Number 16 from Cross, South Carolina is Tiny Lund, driving a 68 Mercury Cyclone. Bobby Allison is driving another Torrid Torino. Number 21, the winner of the Daytona 500, Cale Yarborough, driving a Cyclone. Number 26 is the pole sitter with the fastest time, Leroy Yarborough. All cars fire them up and move out onto the raceway. In the 5th row, it's Bobby Allison and Buddy Baker. In the 6th row, Chrysler's mainstays, Paul Goldsmith and Richard Petty, both in Plymouth Roadrunners. Now, 83,000 spectators are on their feet in a thunderous ovation as the 44 powerhouse monsters come down out of the 4th turn for the green flag, and the Atlanta 500 is underway. Leroy Yarborough comes off the pole in that Mercury Cyclone like he was fired out of a cannon. The scramble for position is wild as Davy Pearson moves his Torino into 2nd. And in the 3rd turn, Cale Yarborough jams his Cyclone into the 3rd spot. Hey, they're really wound up as all cars come out of the 4th turn for the completion of the 1st lap. The traffic is thick and they're running rebel style, 3 and 4 abreast. Atlanta is a fast, tough track every foot of the way. It takes approximately 36 seconds to make the 1.5-mile circuit. 24 of these seconds is spent on the banks. The 2 straightaways last only 6 seconds each. This means the drivers spend most of their time fighting those high bank turns in a 4-wheel drift. And after 500 miles, that's quite a wrestling match. In the 2nd turn, Cale Yarborough passes Pearson. He's 2 now, going for the big one. Cale and Leroy scream those Cyclones down the back chute, passing the slower cars inside and out. Down the front chute and into the 1st turn, Cale slips into Leroy's draft as Petty and Pearson begin to charge. Look out! Pearson loses it in the 3rd turn. He hits the guardrail again and again. Yellow lights are flashing all the way around the raceway, and all cars start to slow down. Davy Pearson takes 1 more lap and limps down pit road. Half the field takes this opportunity to make a quick stop. The action is fast and furious as tires fly and fuel flows all the way down pit road. Richard Petty roars at number 43 Plymouth through the pits for a much-needed tire change. Watch this action. With the steering gone on his Torino, Davy Pearson is out of his car and out of the race. The Wood brothers have Cale in and out in 19 seconds. Donnie Allison in the Ford number 27 gets fuel. Now all cars dive out of pit row and back onto the racetrack. The pace car pulls off and the crowd is once again on their feet for the restart. Leroy Yarborough is still the boy to catch. He has that Cyclone winding 8,000 RPMs and trying to run away. But Cale wants this one bad and slashes through the traffic to move up tight on Leroy's bumper. And once again, the Mercuries are 1 and 2. Cale tries him down the front chute and the crowd goes wild, but Leroy fights him off in the first turn and pulls onto the lead. As the Battle of the Cyclones goes on, Donnie and Bobby Allison, plus Richard Petty, have a private battle of their own for third. Leroy Yarborough's pit crew give him the blackboard sign to go. But Cale is not to be denied. He sets him up for a slingshot in the fourth pocket and takes the lead away. Now it's Cale, Leroy, and Donnie Allison. Richard Petty's been running fourth. He seems to be having handling problems. He goes way up high in every turn. Watch it, Petty pours into the pits, and this is an unscheduled stop. Handling problems he doesn't need. Richard is driving this one with a back injury he received a couple of weeks ago in an accident. That bandana around his neck is lashed to the roll bar to help hold his head up through the turns. His crew has him out in 21 seconds. Number 48, Jimmy Hilton, driving a Dodge Charger, comes in a little too hot. He has to be pushed back to his stall. With the hood up, he may be having big problems. Right about now, Leroy would like to see Cale have a problem or two, but that big Cyclone number 21 looks faster and sounds stronger on every lap. This crowd, baking under a hot Georgia sun, is witnessing one of the wildest speed battles on the NASCAR circuit. And the pressure builds on Cale Yarborough. He not only has Leroy breathing down his pipes, but now Bobby Allison charges him on the high side. Coming out of the second turn, Cale punches at Mercury and outruns Allison and Leroy. It's hard to figure out who wants this checkered flag the most, as Leroy comes up to challenge Cale on the inside, but Cale staves him off again. Now Charlie Glotzbach in the Dodge Charger, number 6, takes the third spot away from Donnie Allison. With only a few laps left, Cale Yarborough wheels into the pits for fuel, and that flawless Wood Brothers team has him out in 8 seconds. If it's true that races are won in the pits, then the Wood Brothers would be the crew to have. Buddy Baker is also in the pits with Dodge Charger number 3 for fuel only. The strain from this speed and heat shows on Baker as he waits for his crew to finish. With a track temperature of 145 degrees, Glenn Wood checks tire wear with one of the Firestone engineers. One of the Wood Brothers crew shows the effect of heat on tires. With the high track temperature and the additional weight of these heavy stockers, racing on tracks like Atlanta make the greatest proving ground in the world for tire manufacturers. The ultimate goal being to provide a better and safer tire for highway use. Cale Yarborough streaks down the back chute and enters the high bank third and fourth turn with that Cyclone handling perfectly. He puts it wherever he wants with little or no correction needed and takes the white flag one more lap. Every crowd loves a winner, and they're all on their feet as Cale powers down onto the fourth turn for the checkered flag, the winner of the Atlanta 500. Leroy Yarbrough takes the second spot with Donnie Allison third and Charlie Glotzbach fourth. It's a rerun of the Daytona 500 with Mercury taking the first two spots. Cale wheels into victory lane, and the first person to greet him is his lovely little wife, Betty Jo, who cheered him on for the full 500 miles, along with a kiss from the Queen and the biggest slice of the money pie, a little over $20,000. Also in victory lane and very deserving of a share in the laurels are the Wood brothers. They're the boys that kept Cale in the race and running strong. It was a big day for them, for Cale and for Mercury, to carry away the #1 spot in the Atlanta 500, one of the toughest, grueling events in auto racing.